up in Carson. I was a young, troubled, reckless young man, constantly in and out of jails. But I remember in 1991 coming home to Scottsdale and seeing my cousin Pitu Yasopo walking through there with an old friend of mine. This old friend just got out of prison, and the old friend had a Bible in his hand. I thought to myself, that's probably what he needed. But deep down inside, I knew it was probably something I needed. So I told him to meet me over at the house. I'll talk to him over there. They came over to the house. They began to tell me about Jesus, began to tell me about the Bible, and I was so interested. Began to listen to what they had to say. That following Sunday, I remember giving my life to Christ. That was the best thing that I could ever do. My life was transformed from that day on. There was a radical change in my life.
So when my husband Chris talks about change, I've seen God do a 360 in his life. God totally did a miracle in changing him. At the time, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We had our daughter at that time living together. We weren't married. Chris took it upon himself. He wanted to move out of the house until we got it right and get married and get that right. For me, I was religious all my life, went to church, but never had a relationship with God. But just seeing the change in Chris's life and what God is, the real change that God is doing in his life made me want that and want that for my life and for me.
At this point, my wife and I were excited. God is doing such great things in our lives, in our marriage. We're pursuing God with all our hearts. Our family is intact. They're living for God. We're just excited about what God's doing. But it's amazing because just as the Bible says that the devil comes to rob, to kill, and destroy, he began to sow seeds of discouragement, seeds of betrayal, seeds of bitterness and anger. And because of things that took place and circumstances began to happen, we found ourselves bitter and offended because of some things that took place. And all the years that we've invested and given our lives, 10 plus years, we saw it taken away by the devil overnight. Because we took our focus off Jesus and we found ourselves turning our back on this life that we had given our life to. And we walked away from the church, walked away from Christ. We found ourselves back doing what we never thought we would be doing. Smothering that hurt, that pain, that bitterness with drinking and partying. Empty, knowing what we knew and knowing that we were empty.
So here we are back at square one. We're at the darkest point in our life. We're back into partying. Even in the midst of that, in the midst of our sin, God's always been there convicting us, just trying to call us back. But because of my excuses, because I've been offended, I was bitter. At that point in my life, I just didn't know what to do.
I woke up one morning just really frustrated with myself, hungover, and I remember telling my wife, why do I half-step with this? Why do I half-step with my sin? I'm going to hell anyway. Why don't I just go all the way? Why don't I just rob, kill, steal, and just go all the way? I was just so frustrated as a man. That's probably what the real reason was, just frustrated as a man, the man that God's called me to be. Always pushing my wife off into going to church, wanting her to be the spiritual leader, knowing that I'm called to be the spiritual leader. I'm called to be the high priest in my home. I'm called to lead my family. And I was at a place where I had to make a decision what type of man I'm gonna be. So I had to make a decision what type of man I'm gonna be. I've decided to take up my place as head of household in my family. And ever since I have, God has been doing a tremendous work in our lives. I am truly excited.
It's been 4 months since we rededicated our lives and planted ourselves in a home church, and there's no turning back.
We are truly thankful for what God's doing in our lives and our family.
We're the Alofaitulis.
Join us on this journey to a great life.